I'm going to go ahead and get started because it's like a little after 4. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to finish the review of medical records for the NCCT today, the medical office assistant test. So we're going to go ahead and get started and finish this part today. So we're going to start with question 31. So pulling patient's charts for the next day is described as which of the following? Unnecessary, efficient, ill-advised, or erroneous? Any question? That's not it. Any guesses to what it is? I only have one person in class. Do you have a guess?
Is it efficient?
Very good. Yes, that is what it is. Yes, efficient. So the rest of them, when you have charts and you pull them, like at the end of today, if I were to pull the charts for tomorrow, that is very efficient because they don't have to be done in the morning. What should be attached to the pulled paper charts to prepare them for the patient visit? Is it the encounter form and lab test results, every policy procedure document, the patient's handwritten synopsis, or past notes from inside the chart? So what needs to be pulled from that chart to help be prepared for the visit? The physician, the medical assistant, what of these documents would make them the most prepared?
Past notes, maybe?
Past notes, okay. Let's see. No, the encounter form and lab test results. So let's go over this one because I could get why you would think that. Whoops, no. Next question. Okay. So what should be attached to the pulled paper charts? Okay, past notes, that doesn't have anything to do with really why the patient's there today. They can be inside the chart, but not pulled, if that makes sense. If a physician needs to refer to those past notes, then they can go get the charts if there's any question or anything. Of course, the patient's handwritten synopsis has nothing to do because just the patient writing that it's really nothing to do to get prepared for the visit. Policy and procedure documents don't make anybody prepared for the visit. That's just what the patient signs, and you keep those in the chart. But the encounter form lets the physician know what they're there for. And then if they've had any lab or test results, that's right there so that they can be looked at right when they get in to see the patient. So that's why you would pick the encounter form and lab test results. After pulling paper charts for the next day, where should they be kept to protect PHI overnight? So where would you keep charts so that if anybody broke into the office or anything and they could not get to them? Would you keep them on the reception desk, in the medical provider's desk, on the RN or CMA's desk, or in a locked room or cupboard?
Locked room or cupboard?
Yes, very good. So you want to keep them locked up. That's the thing with paper charts. You got to think about always protecting the patient, and these are easy for other people to get hold of, a lot easier than somebody getting into a computer system or a program. Next one, how can a patient's prior medical records be obtained from another provider? So if patient's medical records need to be obtained, these are the steps that you would take. So would you call the other office and request the patient records be faxed, email, send an affidavit demanding the patient record be hand delivered, mail an invitation to share records that is signed by the MA and RN, or text the other office and have them send screenshots to the RN's phone? So which one would be you? Which one do you think sounds like the best way for one office to get medical records from another office? That protects the patient as well.
Um, call the other office.
Call the other office and request the patient records be faxed, emailed. That is correct. So you would call the other office and request that the records be faxed or emailed. And hopefully you have a secure fax, or the physician has a secure fax and a secure email to get those records. All right, for this one, we're going to select 3. Which patient chart documents are commonly requested by other physicians? So if a physician needs to look at a patient's chart, these are the 3 things that are most commonly requested: laboratory results, radiographic reports, financial records, unsigned clinic forms, or operation reports. And there's 3 of these. So what are the 3 that you think?
A, B, and E.
A, B, E. Correct. So laboratory results, radiographic reports, operation reports. So anything that has to do with the patient and their care, that's what the physician is going to want to see. Here's another select 3. Which rules, regulations, and guidelines must be followed when responding to a legal request or subpoena for medical records? A, specific rules are unavailable. B, state-specific statutes or laws. C, federal rules and regulations. D, HIPAA guidelines for record release. Or E, OSHA safety published material rules. So what are the 3? You have to think about laws when it comes to this.
Um,
What do you think has to do with like the laws on this?
I know D.
D, okay,
Um, B.
okay, one more.
I'm gonna say E.
Okay, B, you have B, D, and what's the other one?
E.
E. Okay. That was wrong. So OSHA, it wasn't OSHA, it was state statutes or laws, federal rules and regulations, and HIPAA guidelines for record release. What you picked OSHA, I can see why you would think that, but that actually has to do with proper disposing of certain medical materials and keeping things safe from like hazardous materials. So that really doesn't have to do with anything regarding records and them being subpoenaed. Which of the following is the best practice after receiving a subpoena for a patient's medical record? Give the entire original medical record to the attorney immediately. Get guidance from the medical office or hospital legal department. Refuse any request from attorneys, judges, magistrates for records. Give requests from attorneys, judges, magistrates to the accountants. So what do you do? That
A.
A, give the entire original medical record to the attorney. Wrong. That's incorrect. I can see why you would think that, but what you're going to do is you're going to get guidance from the medical office or the hospital legal departments. If that comes in, you want to go to them and see, you know, what you need to do and how you're to do it so that you do it the right way. Next one. Which is a written order requiring someone to testify on a subject in court? Is it a demand, authorization, subpoena, or legislature?
Subpoena.
Correct, subpoena. HIPAA privacy rules have which regulations regarding subpoenas? A, HIPAA avoids addressing the topic of subpoenas. B, HIPAA regulations disallow I can't say that word, subpoena compliance. C, HIPAA laws are non-compliant in court proceedings. D, HIPAA does list permitted disclosures for subpoenas. So which one do you think has to do with HIPAA and privacy rules?
D.
What did you say, B or D?
D.
D. Any other questions besides D?
C.
Okay, so we got a C and a D. Let's look at that. It is D. So HIPAA gives permitted disclosures for subpoenas. And what that means is there are certain ways that a subpoena can be disclosed. And so HIPAA does have guidelines for you to follow. How much of the patient's EHR or chart should be released to another medical provider who requests information? Is it A, the complete chart for every request, B, the minimal necessary for the purpose, C, the request should be denied every time, or D, the requested date of service plus the first and last note? So which one do you think should be released to another medical provider?
A.
A, any other guesses?
I'm gonna say A.
A. Okay, anyone else have another guess?
I'm gonna say A too.
Okay, so let's check.
No, is it
It was the
B?
minimal necessary for the purpose, yes. So whenever, if you were working for a provider's office and they said that they needed certain information, you only give them what they need for whatever they need. So you would not send them the entire chart. You would just send them, like if they were dealing with a patient with a broken leg, you would just send the information that pertains to that broken leg and that problem. Avoid releasing patient PHI to which group without written permission from the parent or legal guardian? A request by a medical provider for treatment, request from a news organization, disclosure to HHS to investigate violations, disclosure that is required by law.
B?
B. Okay, anything else? We've got B,
D.
we've got a D and a B. Any other guesses besides those? I'm selecting B because that was the first answer given me. Right. The correct answer is request from a news organization. So you cannot release protected health information of a patient's without written permission to any kind of news organization. So you would follow all HIPAA and high-tech guidelines, okay? So you just want to make sure that you have written permission before you release any information of a patient. When do state privacy rules preempt federal privacy rules? So it's kind of like, when do state privacy rules kind of take over or go over federal privacy rules? A, when state laws provide greater protection. B, state laws cannot ever preempt federal law. C, when state laws are less wordy. D, federal laws are unable to preempt state laws. Okay, that was kind of backwards. So think about it. When would a state law be better than a federal? Looking at these.
A, when it provides greater protection?
We have A. Any other guesses? And that's correct. When anytime a state law provides greater protection, that's going to take the place of a federal. Which supersedes when a state privacy rule provides greater protection for cases of child or elder abuse. So now we're seeing what goes over a state privacy rule. Is it federal guidelines, state guidelines, OSHA guidelines, CDC, or CMS guidelines? And remember, this is regarding child or elder abuse. So remember what I told you OSHA is already. So we could kind of rule that one out. So which one do you think?
B,
A,
We have A, and what else? What was the other one?
B,
B. Okay, but okay, we're good. They already have state rules. So what's above a state rule?
D,
Okay, we have a D and an A. Anything else?
A.
A. Okay, here we go. Wrong. It was state guidelines. I think one of you got it right, and I was wrong. Deborah, I think that was you. Which supersedes when a state privacy rule provides greater protection for cases of child or elder abuse. So when state privacy rule is used, then you go by the state guidelines. So what that means is, and this wording was confusing. It was confusing for me a little bit. What that
right?
means
Because
is,
I felt like federal was above state.
that's how I would look at it too. But how we're going to look at this is the state privacy rule is like one little rule, and a state guideline, that's over everything. So that if there's a guideline regarding privacy by the state, that's going to be over the state privacy basic rule, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Which of the 50 US states, follow the exact same medical record standards? Is it every state plus the territories follow the same standards? East and West Coast states follow the same policy. Each state has their own specific standards and guidelines. Oregon, Texas, Florida, Maine are exactly the same. So which one do you think it is?
if it's going by state,
It says that it's saying, yeah, some of the 50 states or whatever, it says 50 states follow the same exact medical record standards. So which one do you think it is? Do you
it's
think it's
gonna be
every state?
state, if 50 state, it's gonna be all of them.
So you think it's A?
I'm thinking it's gonna be A.
Okay. Do we have any other guesses? C. It
Oh,
was C. Each state has their own specific standards and guidelines. And I could see why you would think that.
Yeah,
because
because it say 50.
we would like to think that all the states follow all the same standards and guidelines, and they have very similar ones, but they then also have their own specific standards and guidelines. So just know that like each state is different. It's the same but different. How about that? Now we're going to select 3. Where can a healthcare worker find medical record standards and guidelines? In the FIFRA Summary 7, USC 136, HIPAA or HITECH, the Federal Register, law.cornell.edu CFR, and USDA regulations. This one's kind of tough, kind of tricky, but just think about it. Finding medical record standards and guidelines. Which 3 do you think where you would find that? I'm going to go ahead and give you a hint. It is not E. The USDA has to do with food, and it regulates different food things. So I think it's dairy. Something like that. So anyway, we know it's not E. So what are the other three you think it could be? I'm gonna tell you what USDA is.
B,
We got B. Okay. Oops.
I'm gonna say A, B, and C. I'm really
A.
not sure. I'm guessing.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. The USDA has to do with food and agriculture. So we're just guessing A, B, and C because this one is a little confusing. You were close.
Oh, I don't know anything about the law,
I
Cornell.
know. So yeah, HIPAA, high tech, which we would kind of think about that as being true because HIPAA has those laws. Federal Register is something that really has to do with like Medicare and guidelines like that. So that's where you would find, that's why that answer is correct. And then law.cornell.edu is CFR. FIFRA summary 7 has to do with the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. So that's why that doesn't have anything to do with it. How long should medical records be maintained for minor patients? So minors. 2 years from the first visit or treatment, regardless of the patient's age, until patient reaches the age considered adult, plus the statute of limitation. Medical record maintenance is unnecessary for children under the age of 10. For children, medical records are only maintained for inpatient hospital stays. So how long do you think medical records are kept for a minor?
B,
B, any other guesses? Correct. Every state has, in every state, I will tell you, this has a different age that they consider legal to consent for a legal adult to consent for medical treatment. So you would wait until the patient reached the age considered adult. And then there's also statute of limitations. So every state has a statute of limitations for how long records must be kept from the last visit the patient was seen in your office. So it could be 7 years. So if the patient's 15 and let's say the legal age is 18, you're going to wait till they're 18 and then you're going to add 7 more years until the statute of limitations is over. What standards should be used to set retention policies if medical record maintenance requirements for adult patients is unspecified by the state? How long until the clinic runs out of room in the filing shelves? The lab manager decides how long to maintain the EHR. Ask the accounting department how long they want the EHR. Long enough to comply with the state statute of limitations.
D.
D. Anything else? Any other guesses?
D. I'm gonna say same thing.
D as in dog?
Yep.
Here we go. Correct. It's kind of like the last question we just had. You always want to keep any kind of records for the statute of limitations within the state. Regularly used medical records necessary for treatment, documentation, information requests, revenue, or quality reviews are considered to be which of the following? Required records, active records, inactive records, or purged records. So these are the records that are used regularly. So if they're used regularly, what do you think they are?
active records, B.
B.
B,
Wait.
anything else?
Nope. B.
Correct, active records. So purged means they're thrown away. Inactive, it's kind of the same thing. That means they're not active. So active records are what are used. That's where you're going to go get the information you need from the active record. Rarely used medical records that haven't reached the retention requirement are considered to be which of the following? Required records, active records, inactive records, or purged records?
Where you see medical records.
They're not
A.
used that much. They're not used that much, and they haven't quite reached.
A.
We got A. Anything else besides A?
C.
A, D.
I'm guessing C.
We got A, D, and C. So we all know it's not active records because we just had that one. So it's inactive records. Just think rarely, if they're rarely used, they're considered inactive. What is it called when medical records are separated into current, unused, and to be destroyed sections? Is it purging, shredding, sectioning, or placing?
A.
A, purging. Any other? Correct, purging. So that's kind of like, getting rid of records. So, and to be destroyed is basically your key. Here's another select three. Which organization guidelines are necessary to follow when creating a schedule to move medical records between statuses? Clinic, hospital, facility requirements, state retention requirements, federal retention requirements, the patient's birthday requirements, housekeeper's requirements. So what are the three guidelines that are followed?
A, B, and C. I'm guessing.
Let's check.
That's about right.
Correct.
Yeah.
That was correct. Yeah. Housekeepers, and of course, birthday does not have anything to do with keeping records. An inspection of an organization's accounts and records by an independent group is known as which of the following? Search, research, proving, or audit?
D.
Is it B or D? Which one did you say? D as in dog?
D as in dog.
Okay.
Yeah. I say the same thing.
You say the same thing?
Yeah.
Correct. Audit. Anytime somebody comes in and looks over records, that is called an audit. Here's another select three. An inspection is useful for checking which of the following in a medical office: inaccuracies, coding fraud, pronouncing, legal documents, and brochures.
G.
A.
Which ones?
I say D.
We got
I'm
D. What are
gonna
two?
say A and B.
A
And
and
B.
B.
Wait.
All right. And correct.
Mm-hmm.
Inaccuracies, coding fraud, and legal documents. That's what an inspection is to look for. Auditors may use which method to choose patient charts for review? Every other letter section, random sampling, every chart is reviewed, an undisclosed list from auditors.
G.
Did you say D as in dog?
Yeah.
Okay, any other guesses?
I want to say random sampling, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to go with D.
Okay, so let's look. It was random
Oh,
sampling.
it is.
So they're just going to go in. What happens when an audit happens is they typically go in and they just pull charts because they're just looking to make sure you're consistent in the office. So whatever it is that they're looking for, that's what they're going to do. And that's exactly, they're going to go random and just pull whichever ones they feel like pulling.
Okay.
What is the term for the appeal that may be requested after an insurance plan denies coverage? Plea deal, request and review, demand, or external review?
B.
Which one? B?
I'm gonna say B as in boy.
Okay,
Request and review.
we've got a B. Is there another answer?
Requesting review.
Mm.
This is insurance plans denied.
Part D. I'm not sure. I'm torn between B and D.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's check. External review. So basically, when the insurance plan denies coverage, you're going to try to appeal again, and it will be an external review. If the patient refuses to sign the clinic or hospital documents and forms, and this is in a non-emergency situation, what should the medical office assistant do? Refuse to see the patient and ask the patient to leave immediately. Ask the lab technician to discuss the forms with the patient. Document on the form that the patient refused with initials and the date. See and treat the patient without the forms, as this is not a problem.
C.
C.
C?
Yeah, that's what I think it is. C.
Okay, C. Any other guesses? Correct. You just document on the form that the patient refused, and you put your initials and the date. And you can even put their reasons why they did. You don't have to just put patient refused, put the reason why they refused to sign. Next one, what is a paper or electronic collection of a patient's information, including demographics, health history, chief complaint, diagnoses, test lab results, procedures, and outcomes? Is it an extensive list, journaling, a medical record, or writing?
C.
Any other guesses?
C.
See, that's it. The medical record. That's what it's called. When you have pretty much everything about the patient is called their medical record. Do HIPAA guidelines apply to paper charts? No, HIPAA only applies to digital PHI. Yes, HIPAA applies to every medical record. No, HIPAA is unrelated to paper records. Or yes, HIPAA covers only the financial records.
B.
Correct. HIPAA applies to every medical record, whether it's paper, electronic, whatever. Which group requires mandatory barcodes on medication packaged by drug suppliers? Is it GERD, the NDC, EENT, or CNS?
B.
Any other guesses? Correct, NDC. GERD is gastroesophageal reflux disease. EENT is eye, ear, nose, and throat, and CNS is the central nervous system. So yes, NDC was it. What are documents combined in a paper file or EHR containing details of an individual patient's health and treatment? Is it the medical chart, case comparison, medical collection, or treatment track?
A.
Any other guesses? A, correct. Medical chart. Here's our last one. What should medical clinics and other covered entities do to help employees follow HIPAA or high-tech information guidelines? Send each request to the office attorney for approval, postpone delivery of PHI until the request is forgotten, ignore any request for PHI from any organization, establish and enforce PHI policies and procedures.
D.
Yeah, I'm gonna say D.
That's it. Establish and enforce PHI policies and procedures. And that is it for this review. Next week we'll have a different one. So does anybody have any questions before I let y'all go?
No, ma'am.
Nope.
Okay, well, you guys have a great night, and get with me or your instructor if you need any help with anything.
Thanks, you too.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.